I'm going to bring you the breaking news coming to us from New York. That is the live picture from outside of the courtroom. Donald Trump appearing virtually there, but the judge has just sentenced Donald Trump. So let me bring you the developments on that. The judge says he's decided to sentence Donald Trump to an unconditional discharge over the conviction in the hush money case. He has said that he is imposing no jail or fine, but the sentence places judgment of guilt on the president-elect's record. So the judge was very keen to pursue this, despite all those last-minute efforts by Donald Trump going to the Supreme Court to try to block today's sentencing. That did not work. The Supreme Court judges deciding against and throwing out that last-minute bid from Donald Trump. So today's sentencing going ahead, and as I say, that breaking development, I'll just repeat it because those details coming in from the judge saying he's decided to sentence Donald Trump to an unconditional discharge over the conviction in that hush money case. He's imposed no jail time, no fine, but the sentence does mean that it's a sentence of guilt on Donald Trump's record. And I suspect that is why Donald Trump was so keen to go to the Supreme Court to avoid that eventuality. So another historic development, of course, Donald Trump taken to court and convicted in the first place, which was a first for a living president, and those the scenes outside of the court. We'll talk to our correspondent who's been inside in the next few minutes, but I just want to give you a little bit more detail about what Donald Trump said in that appearance before we got sentencing, because it was the first time he was able to testify actually in this case, because during the defence, during that trial back in May, he didn't testify, but he used today as an opportunity to somehow relitigate the case, which of course is already over. He said it had been a terrible experience. He began to list his issues with the facts and the charges involved. He says that the case was brought to stop him from winning re-election and boasting that he won the 2024 election, both in the popular vote and the Electoral College. The fact is that I'm totally innocent, he said. I did nothing wrong. And as he was speaking and going through some of those same arguments we'd heard for months, the District Attorney Alvin Bragg, he was there in court watching Donald Trump on the screen. He was sitting there in the second row of the courtroom and chuckled just ever so slightly when Donald Trump claimed that the district attorney himself did not want to even bring this case against him. And as I say, during the trial, you may remember in many of the breaks from court proceedings, Donald Trump had directly attacked Alvin Bragg, but this the first time to address those comments directly to him. And he wrapped up several minutes of self-defense by once again highlighting his election win and also claiming that the justice system had been weaponized, called it lawfare, a phrase he had used several times before. And he said, I'd like to explain that I was treated very, very unfairly, and I thank you very much. And of course, he had so many run-ins with the judge, Justice Marchand, over the months with this case. And of course, he was convicted back in May. And of course, it's taken all of this time to get to this stage, the sentencing stage. And just to explain that picture on the screen, that is the scene outside of the courtroom. But the picture we were showing before was just a snapshot of the screen which was showing Donald Trump, his virtual appearance, and the rest of the courtroom. But of course, he was convicted back in May. His legal team again and again delaying things in terms of getting to this stage. But as I say, we had that Supreme Court appearance yesterday for his legal team. They lost that, so today went ahead, and today we've had that sentencing. And if you're just joining us, as I say, the judge saying he's decided to sentence Donald Trump to an unconditional discharge. No jail time, no fine, but the sentence remains on record. Neda Tawfik is there. She's just come out of the courtroom, so let's bring her in. And Neda, just describe what that moment was like.
Well, Matthew, look, this was Judge Marchand doing what he said he would, sentencing Donald Trump to unconditional discharge on all 34 counts. And this essentially means that he will have the guilty verdict on his record. He is formally a felon, but that he will face no punishment whatsoever, no jail time, no probation, not even a fine. And Justice Marchand said that this was essentially the only lawful sentence he could give without encroaching on the highest office of the land. He said that never before had the court had to deal with such a unique set of remarkable circumstances. And he kept it relatively brief. Then essentially, after giving the sentence, wishing Donald Trump Godspeed as he assumes his second term. What was interesting is we really saw more from prosecutors, a real rebuke of Donald Trump's attitude throughout this trial. Let's not forget that he was held in contempt of court 10 times for violating gag orders that prevented him from attacking the jury, court staff, court family members. And Donald Trump, prosecutors said, had really showed remarkable disdain for the judicial system that they said has had a really lasting impact outside of the courthouse. But was quite something, Matthew, the photo there of Donald Trump on the defense table, but appearing virtually on a monitor, looking out, and again, launching into his regular talking points, telling the court, telling the judge that this was all a witch hunt to stop him from taking the White House, but that the voters saw through it and elected him, and that he was innocent and had done nothing at all wrong.
And do I assume, Neda, that he will appeal against this decision at some later stage?
Yeah, look, Matthew, despite the fact that he didn't receive any punishment, we know that Donald Trump is very sensitive about the fact that he is now being marked a felon. He certainly didn't want to have to carry that into the White House, which he will do on Inauguration Day in just 10 days. He fought all the way to the Supreme Court to prevent this long-delayed sentencing with that appeal for an emergency relief to stay the sentencing. But in a slim 5-4 ruling, the Supreme Court rejected that, saying that he could appeal this case if he has issues with it. And the fact that he is allowed to appear virtually means there's very little disruption to his preparations for taking office. And in reaction to that Supreme Court ruling, Donald Trump last night did say he will appeal this case. So we do expect that to be the next step here, again, because Donald Trump simply doesn't want to be labeled a felon.
Neda Tawfik live for us there in New York. Thanks very much.